to connect. And here we go. Kia ora tatou morena, everyone. I'm happy to have you back here for another Q&A at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatchis, and today I get to host the fabulous Darren Oxley and Briony Beckett from Microsoft. So I feel really, really lucky that the two of you have taken the time out of your morning to come here and share your expertise with us. We're going to be talking about mastering Microsoft. So really getting into the nitty-gritty of Microsoft Office. We've talked a lot here at Digital Boost about efficiency and where we can get our time back. So I think this is going to be a really great session teaching us about how to use these tools in a way that is efficient for all of us. So welcome, Darren and Briony.
Thank you, Georgia. It's really great to be here, and great to share some of the tools that we use all day, every day, and hopefully we can share a couple of tips and tricks that people may not know about. So thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, and if any of you have questions while we've got Darren and Briony here, please pop them into the Q&A function. I'm going to be here to be fielding that for you. I'm sure you'll have tons to ask, but Darren and Briony, I'm really interested to see all of these new features that we've got. And we were talking a little bit before the session about like the fun that Microsoft Office can actually be when you really, really get into it and you get to play around with it. I didn't tell you this, but I had my husband playing around with Excel and he was getting so frustrated. He literally was like, why can't I change this cell? Why can't I change this cell? Partly it's because it's my husband, so we won't even go into that. But I'd love for you to teach us, well, I know you're going to teach us a little bit about the help functions and how we can figure out how we change these cells and how we do all these basics, but also the more interesting features that Microsoft Office has to share. So thank you for coming along. We'll get started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Excel because Excel is definitely the one that is sort of, you can do so much with it, and there's just always being able to learn. And it's always got functions that if you're not using them all the time, then you're not necessarily going to remember how to use them. So I'm just going to share my screen where I have all of different Office applications open. Okay, let me move that out of the way. Cool. So we have Excel, quite basic. The one that I use all the time because of how visual I am and like to see things, quite easily is conditional formatting. So, you can go through, really try to see where things are, or so in this instance, this is a block of numbers. There's a lot of different options. The highlight cells is the one I use all the time. So in this instance, they're all built in. We're going to say greater than 3. And we're going to make this green because I want to know which days in this particular one, Dorina worked more than 3 hours. And easy as that, it kind of will automatically change the cells. Another one that is particularly good, so I get... this is not in my work life, this is outside, get rosters created and they're often in Excel format. It could be a week-long event. I don't know, want to sort of go through where my name is in all of these things to see where I need to be and when I need to be. So in the same way, I haven't actually got one loaded, but in this same conditional formatting with the highlight, you can actually use equal to as well. So that's probably, as odd as it sounds, my favorite thing in Excel, to say equal to my name, and then it really easily will surface to show me what I need to actually pay attention to. Because there's nothing worse than reading through sort of pages and pages and pages and then missing one cell. So the conditional formatting is a really useful option. And as we mentioned in there as well, all of these all of the Office applications have and have always had help menus. But in the past, they were kind of traditional, here's an actual, help function you would have to dig through. Now within these help searches, it's actually really useful. So this one, it's saying here's something that people are actually searching for quite often. And obviously at the moment, drop down list tutorials. So you can go through and it will actually give you sort of a step-by-step instructions on how to go through and see it's actually going through and, showing, selecting here. So we want to select the table, click and drag, and you get really thorough instructions on how to set these things up. If it wasn't the one that was on there that you wanted, one that come up. Yes. So pivot tables are the bane of my existence because I love seeing them. I never know how to do them. No matter how many times I create them.
Talk to me a little bit about pivot tables. What are pivot tables and how would you use them, for example?
So again, because I'm quite visual, it will sort of take a whole summer, a big block of data and really summarize it in the front. So a lot of the time it can be for, adding up, how many times something was in there. So if you've got a whole list of information, then this one in particular, fun. Okay, because I've got this open in a web version, so pivot is probably one I should have practiced earlier. It's only going to work in the desktop app. But yeah, so a lot of the time, so we'll have, in my particular instance, say a block of customers that are using particular products. And so you can select that entire table and then it will bring it into just a smaller table to say, okay, you have 10 customers who are asking about Excel, 12 customers Outlook, things like that. So it's just really, it gives you a really easy summary, again, of all of the data that's there.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, definitely one that I use help for all the time. Another really easy place to get help as well of how sort of tips and tricks. So if you're using Teams at all, so when you're in Teams, again, because this is a product that is continually getting new features, new capabilities, this is probably where the help menu really comes into play. So the training for this product has actually then been built into the help menu. So when you come into, this can be really useful if you're rolling out Teams for the first time. That's when I really leveraged this, or just you want to have a little refresher, you're not too sure. There's little quick videos in here of sort of quite well-used topics. So creating a channel, 50-second video that will show you step by step how to go through. So because we know everybody learns in different ways, yes, you can go onto the internet and search and read the documentation on how to do it. But having these quick snippet bites in here of videos showing how to actually do things just gives that sort of another option within the product. And these are continually being updated as well. So that that helps with different things that are being released, and the same with topics. So Teams Premium is a new product that's come out this year, so that's why they've sort of put that front and center. The new Teams client, I think, is also the last few months, so they're putting that sort of front and center. So this topics area within help is also a really good place to come in and sort of see what is a new feature, what's top of mind for people, and really be able to see, again, this handy what's new menu. So in this one, this is a demo environment, so I've got some preview features in here, but as you can see, sort of October 18, here's an update. So weekly updates within this what's new of, where there's going to be new features, things you might not know about, because there's so many. I know for me anyway, we get so many newsletters, there's so many places to go and read things. It's too much. And even being internal to Microsoft, when there's new features and updates, like a lot of the time, we don't find out about them until they're out in the wild either, because there is so much. So this is a really handy place to sort of just go and have a look around and see what might be of use.
And will these help topics be in every product? So right now we're in Teams. And so the what's new, we're seeing that in the Teams. If you pop into, what have we got there?
PowerPoint.
Great.
So this one's going to be quite similar. So we've got, again, the what's new. The help is going to be what I showed in Excel before, but the what's new feature will come up, and it's not, because it's not as rich of a client as Teams built into the web browser. It is going to sort of link out, you can link out to the articles, what's new. And it's not going to have as much as the Teams help feature, but there is going to be that same sort of link out to be able to see what's happening. There's probably not as much within the Office applications themselves as there is Teams in regards to what's new, because sort of the main thing that is new in regards to the Office applications is integrations with Teams, or potentially a good segue into what we're talking about earlier with the Copilot that is being released. I think it actually goes general availability next week. The year's flying past. I know it's the 1st of November, and I think that is already next week.
Yeah, it's here pretty quickly. Talk to us about Copilot.
So Copilot, the way that they're kind of have been sort of explaining the name behind it. So where a lot of AI and things are being sort of looked at of, computers will do it for us. It's going to do this. We won't have to do this anymore. That's not what Copilot is being sort of put into. So Copilot is exactly as it sort of says in the name. If you were a pilot in a plane, you're still driving the plane, you've got your Copilot next to you to help out, make things faster, help make decisions, find information, and really sort of be that buddy alongside you. So that's definitely why. So they've sort of branded everything. There's going to be Copilot for Office. We've got Copilot for security, Copilot for GitHub, Copilot for Viva, I think they've just come out with. So it's this whole suite really to be that assistance alongside you rather than a replacement. So let me actually, because point. Just going to, I've got a quick video that I can play. Oh, stuck behind my screen, sorry. So Copilot in PowerPoint is a really powerful one, because, let me open it. Okay. No, hang on. Sorry.
That's all good. So basically Copilot, for example, here with PowerPoint, instead of integrating an external AI program to create a presentation, let's say, it's going to be within the Office suite. Is that
Correct.
what we're saying? Yeah, cool.
Yes. I'm just trying to bring one up, but my computer's, of course, having a slap. Okay, let me put this into
Let's say you're
Is that
getting ready
sharing?
for your customer pitch meeting. Everyone has had a moment when they wish they could turn their proposal into a customer-ready presentation without having to start from scratch. Now you can. Using just your own words, Copilot can translate Word into PowerPoint. You can also translate PowerPoint into Word. Now you have a professional-looking presentation that you can hone and polish. Let's say you want to add a slide. Give Copilot some quick instructions. There it goes, ready for you to review. So this slide is too wordy. Let's ask Copilot to make it more visual. Give it a few seconds. And check this out. Copilot can even animate the slide. It gives it a professional design treatment in a single click. But it doesn't stop there. Copilot even generates speaker notes for all your slides. It's not only a time saver, it's helping you be a better presenter.
Yeah, that's just within PowerPoint, which is going to be, yeah, it looks kind of all flashy. I've used it. It is, yeah, as sort of as slick as it does show in the demo videos.
You know, I was just sitting here with like a big grin on my face and thinking, my God, how quick is everything becoming now? Like how much easier and how much more efficient for us, for business owners, to be able to do this, to plug this in and have it there, where it spent hours, sometimes days we would spend on presentations or flyers or anything that we'd want to do. It would take us so much longer. And it's so, it just made me laugh to think, oh, just plug this in and here's my assistant doing it for me. So that's brilliant. Thank you. Continue.
Georgia, just to jump in as well, I think the beauty of this is what it's doing is it's taking content that, in that example, it's a Word document that's been created, and that Word document might come off a company template, etc. And you can repurpose those documents to, a new format. In that case, it's a PowerPoint presentation with speaker notes plus all the changes. But you can also then impose design features onto it. And to your point, I mean, if you think about the one feature I love, which we probably won't get to demo today, but you can also take, if you've got a 30-page document, you can generate a summary from it, but you can also generate things like FAQs. So the ability to take your existing company data, and it's your data, right, and generate this really valuable content in a really short space of time is just, it's astonishingly valuable for businesses. And of course, there's always the caveat that you need to go and read it, right? And make sure that it's, that what's been generated is correct, because it is, it is obviously not infallible. But I think just as a business owner, the tools that are coming that will take very, tasks that we do regularly, but tasks that take a long time, and compressing that into a really short window. And we know, small businesses certainly that we work with, we know are really, really time poor, and any assets that we can stand up for them that just give you more time back in your day to focus on, the other things that are really important. So I think this is, it's just amazing, right? I'm so excited to see this land eventually. Sorry, Briony, back to you.
No. I like, hearing how everybody uses all different things is definitely all part of it. I can't demo it because it's in our production environment. But we now use Copilot within Teams for a lot of our team meetings. So where someone would have had to spend an hour afterwards kind of, or during taking notes and then putting those into a format that everybody can read and have the minutes. Copilot now is going through and doing that for you. As Darren said, you still need to kind of proofread it and double check that it has understood things correctly, but it's, saving time there, where someone who, however much they're being paid per hour would have, had to sit and just type up minutes, now isn't having to be done anymore. So it's a really time saver.
I've got a question here. Oh, sorry. Do you want to?
No, you go.
Yeah, yes. Just got a question about Copilot here. I've been to a few sessions recently discussing Copilot, and no one is mentioning the cost per user, which I believe to be prohibitive even for charitable organizations. Do we have any information on that?
Darren, you go.
Yeah, I think so. The general availability release, I haven't seen published prices yet. I know that the price point that we have seen is pretty steep. What we do know though is that the efficiency gains that you get from using Copilot equate, easily to hours of an individual's time per month. And the way that I look at it is that, if you look at New Zealand as an economy, the average cost of employing someone in a business base, I think we're at about $60,000 or $65,000 per year now, average wage there or thereabouts, which equates to, and I can't remember the exact numbers, let's call it $30 an hour. So if you can save, 2 hours of that person's time a week, you're in for a couple of $100 a month in terms of, hours saved where that person can go and do other tasks. So I think that, I'm working with a customer that's currently on the early access program. They've got 600 staff, and let's call it optimizing 2 staff members and having those 2 members doing other things, they justify the cost of that Copilot implementation just by kind of optimizing 2 resources. So it's we don't have a price point yet. It hasn't been published. My view is that the business benefit in terms of compressing the amount of time needed to do a lot of stuff is way more beneficial than the cost of the licensing.
Great. Yeah. And then the other question I've got here is, okay, so it's not available automatically within PowerPoint, et cetera, within the suite. It's a separate subscription suite. Is that right? Or will it be sort of an add-on to Office?
So at this point in time, there are a couple of things. One is there are already some features in PowerPoint that are driven by AI. And Designer is a very, very good example of that, right? Where you can actually get slides automatically designed up. And from a licensing perspective again, and it hasn't been announced formally yet, but yes, Copilot will be an add-on, or looks like it is going to be an add-on to your existing licensing suite. And at this point in time, Microsoft 365 standard is the minimum SKU that you need as an add-on. To have Copilot as an add-on. I'll qualify that with, we haven't had a formal announcement around that as yet, because obviously we're still going through the early access program. And Briony mentioned the general availability that is available to enterprise customers initially from the 1st of November, and there's specific criteria that they need to meet from a kind of an SMB perspective. Again, we don't have an official time frame yet in terms of availability as to when Copilot will land in channel. But maybe if you want to Designer is a really good example of AI that's already embedded into, in this case, PowerPoint. Briony, over to you.
Yeah, so Designer is, as I said, built in, available now, and it's using, whether you've got the inbuilt themes that are kind of across within PowerPoint itself. So I can change these. It'll then come up with, if you've got a blank slide, set of slides down the side to say, which one would you actually sort of, because it's seeing that it's a title slide. As Darren mentioned, it is using that AI behind everything already. So it knows in this particular instance that this is, as I just said, the title slide. So here's all of the different options within this theme of what you might want a title slide to look like. If I clicked out to this one that's not in here, it's going to pick up the theme that I had applied, so with the colors, and take what's on the screen and say, okay, here's all the options that within that theme to then change to make everything match. So that can be really handy a lot of the time. When I use this is, if you've got, say, a couple of different presentations and you're grabbing a slide from one and putting it into the other, and then it becomes really obvious because it doesn't match. Someone's used different font, different colors, and we call it at Microsoft, you're not stealing other people's presentations. You're leveraging the work of others. Because we're all doing the same things, so you want to still make it look, top to bottom, one presentation. So that's where it can be really handy to, on the fly, change these change the slides to fit into the design that you've set from the beginning. And then, yeah,
Another really cool feature that is that if you've got, for example, a text box, you can create slides from the content. I don't know if you want to just do that quickly. So we'll pop in a text box, and then you can stand from designer will then generate a contextual site. You'll see in a sec how straightforward it is to do this, right? So now you can pop a couple of lines of text in.
really, really professional.
I was hoping you'd type it in Latin, but I see that it's not.
Yeah, no. So yeah, again, it's going to move your text around. Let's get rid of the title slide so it doesn't think it's a title anymore. So see, immediately I've deleted that title slide. It's now gone in and it's changed all of the options that are on the side here because it's recognized that there's just a text box on this slide. There's no title slide anymore. So the designs that it's sort of putting forward have changed. So these were not available before when we had the title slide. So yeah.
Hey, and Brianna, do you want to just maybe type like a couple of words, like maybe like, I don't know, car, bike, I don't know, to something. We'll see, because what PowerPoint will do is you'll see that. And if we get, you might need to delete the others. And then just, if you delete those out, and we should, with a little bit of luck, in terms of the creating, now if you run design against that with a little bit of luck, what you sometimes do get is icons that are related to, there you go. Bingo. Right. So this is amazing, right? Because it means that you can stand up a really, a really complete and pretty professional, and this is obviously relatively superficial text, but it contextualizes the themes, and you can create either lists or smart art or whatever, which pulls in, again, icons that are related to. So this is a good example of where we've got existing artificial intelligence that's already built into the product as it stands, and it's outside of the Copilot discussion as well. So it's really, really awesome. And we've got there's similar things in Excel as well, and Word that stand up some pretty smart interactions that allow you to generate content pretty quickly already in the product. So that's a pretty cool feature, I think. And you want to just scroll down the design of the suggested designs down the side just to have a look. So you can see you get all kinds of different formatting. Obviously, the more content you've got in, the more it's going to build it out. But just to give you a little bit of a sample of what it's like to relatively quickly stand up some pretty good looking slides, again, based on the theme that you chose up front. That's awesome.
I've got a question in
Jojo, we need more questions. Yeah.
I've got a question in the chat here. So we've got Word and Outlook. So these are what most of us are using all of the time. Will this webinar go over these? We cover a little Word and Outlook.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's open up Outlook.
And for those on the call, if there's anything specific that you want in terms of sort of product features that we hopefully know, please just drop them in.
That's probably a handy tip as well, just as sort of a segue. If you're ever sort of on this new tab, that's where you can access everything sort of in one place. So I use that menu all the time. But yeah, so you can go through, that's the main way that I navigate between all of the options. And then even once you're in sort of Outlook, you can then switch across to the others really easily from this little app launcher. Okay.
And just very quickly before you jump in, I also just wanted to call out, I think one of the key features that we've got from an Office perspective is you've got both what Brianna is showing now, which is the web apps, right? So these are apps that are based out of a browser on the internet, which are obviously accessible from wherever you've got an internet connection. The other piece, if you're on the right subscription, is you get also what we call a client app. So those are the apps that live on your actual device themselves. And so it's quite an important distinction because there is additional functionality on the client side. So you're on either on your PC or your Apple Mac or whatever you're running. And I think it's important just to make that distinction And again, we're seeing a much closer look and feel between the web apps and the client app. But I just wanted to call that out because what Brioni's shown in here is based on web apps.
Yes, that is a very good call out. As we saw before in Excel, there are definitely some features because they use more processing power or just how they're sort of rendered will be in the actual installed application versus the web browser, but they are getting closer and closer as things get released. The biggest thing that I guess I probably use all the time is this default view now in the in Outlook is sort of focused versus other. So in this particular one, it's going to put newsletters, things that particularly might not be addressed directly to you in sort of the other view. This will still come up here, but then you can really see what's going to be important to you. One thing that I know one of my colleagues uses all the time, I've just recently started using them, are the quick steps. So if you get emails all the time and want to do particular actions, so in this particular one, you can say, I want to move it to a particular folder and save that. So now if I'm going through my inbox and I just want to go, yep, that's there, it's filed away. I don't have to scroll down through my list of folders to try to find it. It's really just helping, again, with that saving time if there are things that you do a lot within Outlook. So his particular one, he'll have a to-do folder. So if he knows that's something that's an action for him and he's going to need to do it later, he'll quickly file it across into there. So the quick steps can be really handy in that regard. It will also, the move to will keep your recent folders in here as well. So that's another option if you haven't gone to the point of setting up quick steps. This will kind of learn what your actions are. Hang on, I was too quick. So it should be, the quick steps should be along your toolbar by default. So you'll have, if you haven't got any set up, it'll just say quick steps as it did before. And you can go through and manage quick steps. It is in your settings menu as well. So if I go into settings here, mail, quick steps are there. So that's another option to go through. Everything is these settings menus kind of keep things categorized. So your sort of general account settings, but most things within here are going to be handy. One that I've always used, and I don't know how I would keep my Outlook organized without it, are the rules. So within my inbox, particular groups that I'm in, or particular keywords of emails, I'll automatically just get them pushed into a subfolder that I know that I can deal with. And then the big one that I probably, that I do use is I actually set a rule by default when I go on leave. So anything that I'm not in the to or CC box, I will put it in the folder's called on leave. So when I come back from leave, I can go through that folder and see what's happened while I've been away. But while I'm on leave, it's not sort of making noise if I do happen to take 5 minutes and just check that there's nothing urgent. All I'm seeing in my inbox or the day that I get back is that stuff that it has been sent directly to me, which can be, I personally, that saves me a lot of headache when I come back, because there's nothing worse than, if you've been away for a week or even a couple of days sometimes, and then you come back and you open Outlook and you're like, oh no, where do I start? There's, 100 emails here. that's where the rules can really help out, sift through what's going to be most important.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think, I guess we're in an interesting environment because we get hundreds of email, right? So it becomes really important. A couple of really good rules, as Briony said, a CC rule. So I have a rule that says anything that I'm on the CC line goes to a CC folder. If it's to me, it stays in my inbox. But so you can set them up immediately from there, which is great. So there are all kinds of categories. The other one that's really interesting is you can set mails from specific people. So for example, I have a rule for my boss. So my rule from my boss goes into a folder that is specifically, and it remains unread. That's another really good rule, is you can have, if you get email that comes in that you really don't care about, but you do get it regularly that you may want to reference, I move it, but I also mark it as read so that I know that there's nothing to go against. So there are all kinds of things that you can do. Again, it's around just optimizing your inbox. You could flag, specific mails. Maybe you get, email from your accountant at month end, or any of those kinds of things where you can flag them because they need follow up, and then that can create an action list from it. So there's, then a number of different parameters that you can set depending on how you work that really do help just kind of clean up and optimize your mailbox. The more mail you get, the more important it is actually to stand these up. So yeah, it's great. I'm glad you touched on those. Brilliant. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. There's a question here about where can I set an out of office notice in Outlook?
Great one.
Yeah, this is a good question because this is one that also has discard that. So so this is in the settings menu again, automatic replies. And this is one that I can't remember when it changed. But I know traditionally you could just set one out of office message. It was either on, off, and then you had to just come in and the next time you came in, it would remind you, hey, this is on. Would you like to turn it off? You can now say only to send it during a particular time. So this is handy. I use this one when, say, I'm going on leave tomorrow, but I know I'm going to have a really busy day and I might forget to set my out of office. I'll do it when I'm thinking of it, but not to start until a particular time. One that is new is to also block out your calendar. So if people, if they're checking to see when they can make meetings, your calendar is going to be blocked out during this time, so they can't put meetings in. The one that I then also use is this option to send a different reply outside of the organization. So I might have a more casual message or different contacts to someone internally emailing me, whereas the external reply could be slightly different. Or sometimes if I'm only going out of the office for a day or just the afternoon, I would probably actually untick this. So only sending replies to my internal contacts. But yeah, that's sort of you can set that up as much as different as you want. But if you wanted to copy and paste the same message between the two, you can do that as well.
Yeah. So one of an example here in the chat is, can I set my out of office to be recurring every Friday without needing to remember every week? So would that be in a block my calendar? Could you do that as a recurring?
So within Outlook itself, you can't at the moment just sort of say every Friday turn this on. Say you didn't work on Fridays or Mondays, and you wanted to have it on there. There are a lot of really fun things that you can do out of the box with Power Apps, which anyone can access. I'm not going to say that I know that this can be done, but I've got ones set up so that, I was just playing around with it. When a particular file is uploaded in a spot, it'll send me a Teams message. So I would say I'm not 100% sure of that answer, but there are some really cool things that can be done within Power Apps that may be able to do that for you.
So Libby, I think it's a brilliant question, and Christine, thank you for answering. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good feature request. So there literally was a mail in my mailbox yesterday around if you've got any feature request suggestions for Office, please send them to this email address. So I am going to send your request for a time-bound recurring out of office to be added as a feature set. So with a little bit of like Christine, we'll get that feature request in, and it could be done then hopefully within the app and without having to stand up a Power App. But to Brioni's point, Power Apps are just incredibly powerful to do these kinds of things. Great question. Thank you for asking. I will definitely submit it.
And then it'll be known as the Christine app, the Christine feature is what we'll call it.
It's a great one. I'm assuming that's Christine. I hope you're out the office every Friday and not working, which is awesome. Which means it's a 4-day week, which I'm also fully in support of. So, great. I'll send it through. That's really good. Right. What else we got? I want to just touch very quickly on archiving, because I think that's another important. And maybe that leads a little bit into more of the sort of not the compliance related things, but you know, from a business perspective, it's important that you have retention policies around email, especially obviously for financial information. So maybe maybe you want to touch on archiving and kind of how that works.
Yeah, so it's going to depend on, I guess, your business and how it's set up in the background. But yeah, so Outlook and Exchange Online has sort of inbuilt archiving. So this one has it available here. So say, let's pick this document. I'm going to archive. So I know I want to keep it, but I don't want it in my inbox anymore. It's, you know, I might need to refer to it later. I'm going to archive. It looks like it's gone. You know, it's very similar to delete. So on my Outlook mobile app, because you can configure what you want to happen when you swipe on an email. I've got one direction is delete and the other direction is archive, because some things you're just wanting to clear out of your inbox, but you don't actually want to delete them. Because again, depending on your organization's policies, deleted emails, you know, might only be kept for a certain amount of time, whereas the archive ones will stay in place. So it's not going to play ball that quickly because this is a demonstration environment. But yeah, once you archive things, you know, as I said, it's now gone out of the inbox, but you can access it there in the background.
Yep. Great.
And let's make sure we touch on Word as well. I mean, but once you've covered Outlook, you feel like you've exhausted it, but I want to make sure that we get to that question about covering Word as well.
Yeah, no, we can flick across. Again, let's go to Word. If you're doing this on your computer, it shouldn't be asking you to log in all the time. This is just because I've got a different login to my own, loading all these documents. Okay, so again, got quite a sort of basic, let me change that. Basic Word document. You can change the views quite easily, but actually just because this has come up, again, the same as PowerPoint where we were showing there's that AI sort of built into the background. Word will do a similar thing. So it's going to come up and there's one suggestion. So it's already got this editor. It's going to come up and say, you know, how do you want it to be, sort of what type of document is it? Is it a, you know, casual, formal? So it's going to then assess the writing and your grammar to see what it thinks, you know, needs to be changed. So in this particular instance, it's going to explain why as well. So traditionally, sort of with the spell check, grammar check, it would have just said, here, change this. Now with as things are evolving, it's actually going to sort of explain, well, this is why we're suggesting this. But then you can also select to ignore, or take it a step further and see even more information about why it's suggesting the change. Because you might say, okay, in this instance, yes, I can understand why you're saying that, but it doesn't fit within what I'm writing. So that's, again, sort of that inbuilt AI behind the scenes. And now that I've changed that, it's like, cool, we're, nothing wrong with your document. You've also got that same designer kind of built in as PowerPoint had. So seeing different themes that you might want to select depending on what you're doing. I can pick more. We're going to change. Going to put some pictures in, move things around, automatically do that formatting. And then if we go to designer, yeah, so it's going to keep coming up with ideas. And where Darren said before, we get asked for feedback on things. Within all of the Office applications, there's also this option to give feedback, and that does go to a team that goes through that. So don't ever think that, so you might see these pop up every now and then, but these answers do go to a place. So that's another option if you've got things that aren't working, are working. But yeah, the editor and designer are probably the two biggest places in here. Although another handy feature, which is actually in all of the Office applications, if you're collaborating with people on documents, so you're helping out, this catch-up button, I don't think it's going to load anything. Yeah, so it's not going to show anything in this particular one because I'm the only one doing things in this document. But if this was a document I was working on with a few other people, when you click onto that catch-up button, it will actually show you who had been editing the document, where they might have made changes. So it can be a really good time saver rather than you having to look and try and work out, okay, when I was in this document last week, what did it look like? What does it look like now? What's changed? That catch-up button is a really handy feature.
Briony, can I also just add in, and I think this applies to all the Office, the productivity products of Word, Excel, PowerPoints, is you've got co-authoring, which means that you can have multiple, not just one or two people working on the same document at the same time. And that's a really important feature. Probably a good example is a colleague of ours, his husband has his own business, and he was sharing an Excel spreadsheet and emailing it to his accountant. The accountant was emailing it back, and it was going kind of backwards and forwards like that. And all he needed to do was to share a link to the documents, and they could have worked on it together. And it sounds like a pretty obvious thing, but it's pretty important if you've got a couple of people that need to work on a document. You do not need to mail it around, because then you'll end up with multiple versions and it gets a little bit tricky. So I just wanted to call that out as well.
No, that is a very good comment, actually, because, I guess that where I just sort of skipped straight to that catch-up button, that's just because, that's how we share things, and it's kind of ingrained in. But that will only work if you're all sort of working on the same link. So within this share feature, it's going to default to being able to share a link. So if you put people's names into here, it's going to automatically send them an email. Or if you're, say, already chatting with them in a chat somewhere, or you've got an existing email, you can just copy the link and put it where you need to put it. And then you can also change permissions. So say you were sending it to someone and you just wanted them to comment, can change to review. And within these sharing settings, you can kind of get as granular as you need. A lot of these will be set potentially based on how your organization has configured external sharing in the back end. So I know a company that I used to work for, we could do this, internally, and then externally there were certain domains. So we would ask our IT department, hey, we want to collaborate with this other company, and they would then put that into our sort of safe sharing settings. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you are sort of using this and something doesn't let you do it. It doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just could need some security configuration.
And
the
also,
reason-
go ahead, Darren.
I was going to say the reason for that is security, right? You want, if you are working on company documents that are going externally, you want those documents only accessible to the people that you're sharing them to. You don't want them broadly shared. So by putting that and let's call it an authorized email address into that field, is you're giving that email address access to the documents. And any other email address that try and open, if, for example, they got that, if that link was shared with someone that didn't have access, they then can't access the document. So it's super important from a security perspective. And I'm glad we're getting onto security, because I want to just spend the last couple of minutes on that, because I think it's a critical topic. But sorry, Georgia, so you had a question, I think?
You answered my question. It's exactly where I was going. I was going right for security. So yeah, go for it. Fantastic.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the other thing, Georgia, maybe 2 minutes very quickly, is on the other thing that I found really useful is review. So that, and maybe you just want to just quickly run through comments and those on the review tab, because I think that's also, again, in the context of sharing documents and collaborating with others, super useful tool.
I just saw a question there quickly, just before we move on from the sharing. Yeah, so the desktop app will still work the same as long as they've opened it from a link. So if this was my own thing, I can, you can still do all of the same stuff, and you'll actually see if someone else has got it open at the same time, their kind of little initials or photo will show up, and that, yeah, for sure works in the desktop app as well. Gonna close these. Yeah, so this particular
I think you have to add one.
Yeah. New comment. So yeah, on the sort of review tab, can come up. So if you've sent this out to get comments, to be able to see this, this we use all the time in Word and PowerPoint, probably the two main places to get feedback if you're collaborating with people. Another one that is really sort of starting to get quite a lot of focus, I think, lately, is accessibility checks. So within Office, this is built into every product as well. It actually, in our Outlook now, will, as you're sort of sending things, we've got an accessibility check switched on to advise things. So it's really checking in this one. It's not going to find any errors, but a lot of the time it'll be, if in PowerPoint, one is a good example, if there's not high contrast between things. So if people have sort of vision issues, and that's going to assist people to be able to see it better. Having descriptions on images. So if people are using screen readers, it'll bring up all of those sort of things to be able to see quite easily.
And just one comment very quickly on the comments that you've dropped, that Joanna Lorenz. You can also, as it says, you can @mention people, so you can tag people for that comment. So if Briony and I were working on a document and she needed me to tag something, she could do an @whoever. Okay, pretend I'm Patty, right? She could tag me, and then that actually will ping you an email saying that Briony has tagged you in this document with a link to go to it directly. So it's very, very good from a collaboration perspective.
Yeah, so as I said, this one, as soon as I've tagged, Patty is going to be notified, and it'll then be able to sit there and say, hey, this is, you're going to send it. And in this instance, she didn't have access, but now does.
Yep.
There's a question here in the Q&A. If someone has inadvertently or not realizing the doc is shared, made edits in the original doc, and then a group have worked on it separately, is there a function to compare docs and bring the additional changes in without losing the work done in the shared doc?
Great question.
Just trying to think. Oh, so no one's made the edits in the original. Okay, and then people are working on a copy of the document, I think is the...
So maybe there are probably two scenarios there. The one is where you've got multiple copies, saved copies of the document. So where you've got, say, 3 versions of the same document that people have edited individually, you can absolutely do a compare. I'm not sure whether if it's in the web app, but looking at it, it may not be, but you can stand up a side-by-side comparison, definitely in the client-side app, and you can compare the documents and it will show you where the differences are. The other thing you can also do is if your document, as in this case, is on SharePoint, SharePoint does document versioning. So it will, again, it needs to be set up, but it will keep versions of documents as people go through and edit them. And there are different ways of managing it. So the answer to the question is it depends on how you saved it and kind of where the documents are, but you can definitely do, let's call it side-by-side comparisons. It's in the, I say it's in the client app. I'll just actually get the, I'm not going to share my screen, but it is called Compare, literally. So if you've got the client app and you either get into the review tab, as it's the same as what Brioni's on at the moment, or just hop into the search, into the help bar and just type for compare, and it'll tell you exactly how to do it. Georgia, I'm conscious that we're very, very nearly at time, and I just wanted to touch very quickly. I've got one key theme that I wanted to land. And more broadly speaking, across our business, we are seeing an increase in the cyber threats that are out there. And if I've got one call to action for anyone who's listening to this webinar, is if you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled on whatever environment you're on, so whether you're on the Microsoft stack or whether you're on kind of the Google suite, we know that multi-factor authentication is a significant mitigating factor in terms of reducing your vulnerability to effectively cyber threats. If you don't have it enabled, and you're working with an IT partner, get them to turn it on. It's super, super important. So if anyone wants to reach out to me for a little bit more information, I'm sure, Georgia, we can stand that information up. But make sure that you've got complex passwords and you're using a password manager, and that you've got multi-factor authentication enabled on your environment. You don't want to get caught without it.
Thank you, Darren. That's a really good point. And we had Cert NZ on, who also mentioned that if you want to go back into our previous Q&A and look at that. But Darren, it's always good, especially this month, to really, really hone in on cybersecurity. And always. And it's one of those things, one of those topics we've been talking about, because it's, as we're realizing, the computer is our home, and we're allowing people into our home all the time. Yep. Without even realizing that they're there sometimes. So, yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. Any other questions before we release you all into the wild? I just want to thank you, Darren and Briony, for coming on and sharing your expertise with us, for taking the time to come and share with our small businesses here in Aotearoa. It's so important that people like you are here to give us your mahi and to teach the rest of us how to continue to thrive in business. Thanks so much. Christine says, yeah, this has been a beautiful, beautiful session, and I'm looking forward to more. Darren and I'm not sure if Briony's coming on that one. We're going to have a workshop on the 9th of November. So look for that in our platform, in the Digital Boost platform. And I'm looking forward to more of this. So thank you so much.
Kia ora, Georgia. And I just wanted, for everyone that's joined, really appreciate you taking the time out your super busy days. I know how busy you guys are on the ground, and so appreciate it. Huge shout out to Briony for jumping on and helping out. And yeah, Georgia, for hosting us. We really do appreciate it. Kia ora.
Yeah, and we'll see you all soon. So, mate wa.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.